This is my main class, which handles all the user's inputs throughout the whole application. Starts off by including a scanner, which will read any user inputs, followed by the registration section, which prompts the user to enter first name, last name, create a username, create a password, and enter a cell phone number, starting with +27 as the international code. Followed by this will be the login section, which prompts the user to enter the username and a password which they had previously entered while registering. Followed by this is the main menu section, which displays and offers the user 5 options, which are sending a message, showing sent messages, showing stored messages, displaying message reports, or quitting the whole application. As the user enters, clicks option 1, they will be faced with the question of how many messages they want to be sent, and this is the code which handles that on line 94. And from line 100 to line 103 handles displaying, showing which message the user is busy entering, but you will see that as we go through the practical example. And yeah, this is just my code and all the case statements. Then line 237 downwards is my stored message options, which gives the user a possibility of 7 different options, which are displaying sender and recipient, display the longest message which has been entered by the user, searching for messages using IDs, search for messages or searching for a particular recipient, deleting a message by using a hash, or just the full display, or even the possibility of going back to the previous menu. And this is the code that handles pretty much all of that with all the necessary error handling. When you move on to the login class, this is the class that handles all the requirements needed for registering and logging in. Starts off by including all the requirements which are needed for the username, all the requirements which are needed for the password, and all the requirements which are needed for the cell phone number. From lines 54 to about 65 is the error handling, which will be shown to the user if usernames are entered with incorrect format or incorrect format for the passwords, or if the cell phone numbers are not formatted correctly, in all those kind of ways. Then line 76 to 80 handles actually logging the user in and moving on to the next step after logging in, which will be sending the actual messages. And line 82 to 93 is the part that shows the user's login status, whether they successfully logged in by entering the correct username and password which they had provided and met all the requirements when entering their full name, their last name, their cell phone number, and yeah. Then following that is line 92 is the error handling for just this little section, where if they would have entered either their username or password incorrectly. Then from line 95 downwards is just a number of getters and setters, which get passwords, username, cell phone numbers, first name, last names, and so on. Then this is just the test class for the logins and all necessary things that are needed for logging in. with my messages class, it generates all the unique characteristics which are needed for the messages. Starts off by including a list of arrays which store the messages. Then line 18 to 22 is the where it checks if the user has entered the cell phone number in a correct format. Line 24 to 28 checks if the message has an appropriate length, which is less than 250 characters. And line 30 to 45 generates a unique message ID for the message which the user has just entered. Lines 47 to 68 generates a unique hash for that's the message which has just been entered. And yeah, lines 96 to 121 displays all messages which have been stored in the application. Then following this is displaying disregarded messages, displaying any messages that have just been entered to review. And lines 164 to 167 counts for the user how many messages have been sent or stored, and it just counts basically the number of messages which have been entered by the user. And following that is just a bit of code that gets the longest messages or counts the number of characters in a message, then brings back or displays the one with the longest number of characters. After this following is a part of the code that allows the user to have the ability to search for a particular message using the ID, followed by the ability to search for a particular recipient, then then also giving the user the ability to delete messages using the unique message hash. After this is just a display for the message reports that will show the message ID, the message hash, the sender, the recipient, the message, and the actual status of the message, whether it was sent, stored, or disregarded. And yeah, that's that. Then for this class of message records, I used it to basically be the class that handles, all the message IDs, the recipients, the sender, the message hash, and the message status, instead of including it in the message clause, just to differentiate it and organize my code a little bit better. And I have done this for both the message records and the message manager. And when talking about the message manager, this just handles all messages that have been stored, and and gets all the longest messages, and handles searching for messages using the IDs and stuff like that, and searching for particular recipients of messages, and handles the deleting of messages using the actual hash, instead of all having it in the messages class. I have split up all that workload throughout three different classes, which are the messages.java, the message record.java, and the message manager.java. Then this is just the test class for my messages with the appropriate tests and stuff. And for the JSON reader, I included this in a different class, mainly for the purpose of organization and making it easier for me to find where my mistakes are when creating the code, because I did struggle a lot when this code was in the same class as, for example, the messages class or any other class. Then I just decided it'll be easier for me just to separate it and put it in a class of its own. And yeah, it just loads stored messages and handles everything like that of regarding the JSON section of the rubric, mocking rubric, and this is the code for it. Then following that is the okay, yeah, this is just my pom.xml file where I had just added the necessary dependencies to make everything run smoothly. Okay, so now let's just quickly build and run the thing to see if it's working smoothly. Almost there. So building is successful, and now we can run the application. There it is, quick chat application. And firstly, we're gonna need to deal with the registration by entering user's first name, user's last name, creating a username. Okay, let's create a password. And cell phone number. Enter. There you go. You get a message that the user has been registered successfully after completing the registration section by meeting both the username requirements, which are capital letters and using an underscore, password requirements having a capital letter, number, and special characters, and cell phone requirements, which are using the unique +27 code for South Africa. So now we can just log in by entering the details which we have already entered here. So password. There we go. Then here's the little welcome message, which uses the first name and last name, which I had entered, which is not hard coded, by the way. So now we're met by the main menu. In the main menu, we have those 5 options. Let's start off by selecting send messages, and it'll ask me how many messages do I want to enter. Let's say 2. There, so yeah, there it is, message 1. And remember earlier in the video I had said the thing, there was a section of the code that will actually count which number of messages the user is currently busy on. Yes, this is it. And now we're busy with message 1, and you'll see later on you'll see message 2. So let's just enter another phone number using the correct format here. Let's enter message. Hi. Then we can select what we want to do with this message. You just send it, store it, or disregard it. So let's select option 1 and just send the message. And now you see it's showing us option 2. Let me enter a second phone number here. Okay, since I had made a slight mistake because I forgot to add the +27, this is an example of what happens when you enter an invalid phone number. But let's move on to option in the main menu. Let's move on to option 2, which shows sent messages. And now you can see my message 1 with a unique message ID the sender, which is me, and the cell phone number, the recipient of who's going to be receiving their cell phone. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to continue on where I left off. And this was option 2, which showed sent messages and showed message ID, the sender, the recipient, the actual message, the message hash, and the message status. So if that was option 2, let's just send a message and actually store it. So there'll be something in there. How many messages? Just one. Let's say plus 27. The message is store the message. So I can select option 3 on stored messages, and you'll see that message should appear here under stored messages. Then if we search for displaying the sender and recipient, there it is. It's displayed the longest message. It'll obviously display that one because that's the only message which we do have under stored messages. Search using message ID. Let's okay, I'm supposed to end. Let me just fetch that message ID real quick. Where can I get that message ID? Message ID. Okay, since I'd forgot to enter fetch message ID, let me just enter a wrong message ID, and you're gonna get them error message not found, because there is no message that matches the ID which I have entered. If I search for this recipient, and let me enter this phone number of this recipient. Hold on, let me just copy this and paste it here. Gets the message which I had sent to that number. Let's delete okay, we won't be able to delete by hash because I currently don't know the hash. Then let me get the full report, and here's the report. Okay, since I have the report now and I have the message ID, let's search using the message ID. Let's get back to that actually, and there you go. And if let's go back and I say display report in the main menu, there's the full report, and I can say quit, and it says thank you for using quick chat, and there is my application. Thank you.